Welcome to the Women's Health Community Podcast. We're here to remove the pressure of the gym bro culture within the health and fitness community. So if you're a wannabe muscle mummy like me, a Pilates princess, in your running era, or simply a woman who values her health and fitness, this podcast is for you. Join us each week as we chat with inspiring and motivating individuals from all walks of life, sharing their personal journeys and practical tips for living a healthier and more fulfilling life. Welcome back to the Women's Health Community Podcast. I'm so excited to have my first ever guest in the podcast studio with me today. I selfishly picked this person because it's someone who at the moment I cannot get enough of her content. I cannot get enough of her voice, her mind, everything about her I am obsessed with. So without further ado, introducing Kaitlyn. Hello.
Oh my God, I want to be introduced like that all the time.
You can have this clip and then you can just kind of like play it when you like walk in the room. I'm here, bitches.
Should I put it on like if I make a dating profile? I'll put that as like one of my
The
hinge
audio.
It's just
I
you.
don't even know how dating profiles work anymore. Like you could, I feel
God.
like they've just got to be so cool. You could have that play.
I could have that.
And that would be so good.
Do you know how many matches I would get?
You're so welcome.
Anyway.
I just found you love. Well, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy that you're my first guest. I feel very comfortable having you in here with me, whereas I feel like a solo episode, I was really nervous, but we're going to flow. We're good. I've got some great questions.
Thank you for having me.
That's good. You're so welcome. Well, we're going to get straight into it. I have some really quick questions. First thing that comes into your mind, you got to give me the answers.
Stressed. Yeah.
You don't know all of these questions, but that's fine.
Okay.
So what is one non-negotiable in your day every single day?
I'm panicking.
It's your day.
What's my day look like? Where did I come from? One non-negotiable is I need to get outside every single day, regardless of anything.
Yep. What is your death row meal?
Oh my gosh. It would be, okay, hear me out. Spaghetti pizza. And
Gag. Absolute
purely for
gag.
the fact because I can't have gluten.
Okay.
So I would just want to load up.
Load up on gluten. Like you're going anyway, just go out on all the gluten.
Go out, like I'm going to overload my system with gluten. It would be spaghetti on pizza and then a fresh loaf of bread, like white bread, but still warm. So I would just go out vomiting.
That's gross. But like you do you, it's your death row meal. Go for it.
What's yours?
Mine would be like a full spread of different types of hot chips. Like taking KFC, like a chicken and chip shop, Macca's chips, like just hot chips.
Yeah, yum.
Like that's me. I'm set. I'm sorted.
Yeah, chippies.
And then adding some ice cream. We're good.
Yeah. I love that.
What was your dream career when you were growing up as a kid?
I wanted to be a tiger keeper at Dreamworld. Dreamworld.
Queensland.
Oh, in Queensland, yeah. I really wanted to be a
keeper.
vet and like specifically be a tiger keeper and look after all the tigers in the zoo. And then one day my mum was like, well, you know, if you're a vet, how funny is this?
I just got the best visual though of you dressed up as like Joey King, like full like ready to go with all the tigers, like
It's
a tiger
me.
whisperer.
I just wanted to be with the tigers.
That's so good.
And then one day my mum said to me, you know that if you're a vet, you actually have to like put them down as well. Like it's not just like happy, good things. And I was like,
I'm out.
could never.
All right. And then this is the one rogue question for you.
God.
Do you think that anyone can or should be facilitating breathwork? Yes or no? Go.
Is it just yes or no?
Just yes or no?
No.
Slay. Love that. I knew the answer. I knew what the answer was going to be, but we had to get it on there. We had to tell the people what you think.
Yes.
Alrighty. So for everyone who wasn't at my last community day, you were probably one of the best guests that I have had to date. I found a lot of people later were telling me messages that like you just opened their eyes to so many different things. You were talking about the nervous system. You were talking about breath work and healing yourself through all these different practices that people would consider a little bit more like woo-woo, alternative, witchy. Like I was full off it when I first ever met you. Like we're going to go into that later. But for people who weren't at the event, just explain a little bit about like who you are, kind of what you've been through, how you've healed yourself, how you've helped yourself, and a little bit also about like the work you do. I feel like that's a very loaded question, but
17 questions
everything.
in one.
Give us a bio of Kaitlyn Menere.
Okay, so Kaitlyn Menere, I am a holistic psychotherapist and health coach. Prior to this, though, I was a hair and makeup artist for 10 years. Crazy. I can't even imagine it.
I feel like it's a great skill to have to be able to do your own hair though, because I cannot.
Yeah, look, it comes in handy now.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I do my hair or my makeup for like events, I'm like, oh yeah, there she is.
She's great.
Oh, There's that skill that you practice for 10 years and then just threw in the bin.
Love that.
But I was a hair and makeup artist for 10 years and then come COVID, couldn't work because I was really strong in the like e-commerce world, photo shoots, all of that.
And that obviously went to nothing.
Nothing, couldn't work. And I was like, fuck, like what am I going to do? I read this book called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. I was kind of starting to get into personal development, but other than that, I was very in my party girl phase. Just binge drinking, bags on the weekend, just like living Da Vida Loca. Can I say bags?
Vida Loca. You can say bags. I feel like if you hear the first episode, I was broke. I was calling myself like a shit bag.
Okay, cool. I can't
So
wait to
go for
listen.
it.
So I was just in this party girl phase and then come COVID, couldn't work, read this book and I was like, oh my God, I want to change the world.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to change the world.
Light
I've read
bulb,
one
I am saving the globe.
I'm saving the world. And I was like, I think I want to do something different because I fell into makeup when I was 16. I was a really arty kid and I was like, it's pretty much just art on the face. I didn't have to do my year 12 exams. I did my diploma of screen and media or like makeup, whatever it was called. And that was all I knew. And so I had this crazy idea come through of maybe you can do something different.
Yep.
And then I was like, absolutely not. I turned 30 in a few years. I'm not changing my career at 30. Like wild. Like what, you're going to go back and study at 28 years old? Loser. And then I was like, oh no, and I sat with it for a few days and I was like, I think this is what I'm going to do.
Yep.
And initially I thought I wanted to help people with grief and PTSD and trauma because when I was 20 years old, I lost my mum suddenly to cancer. So that's been a big, huge part of my journey. And I read this one book and I was like, oh my God, I felt my feelings for the first time. And I was like, I'm healed. I'm going to help heal the world. And obviously it doesn't really work like that.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, I'm going to get into counseling. I'm going to get into grief. I'm going to get into all these really heavy, heavy things. Such a different life to let me make you look hot while you sell this bag and these shoes, right? Let's go over here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started doing it. I started studying and my first part of my qualification was meditation teaching. And I was like not a meditator at all. I'd dabbled in it a little bit when I started getting panic attacks and it helped me, but I was like, I'm not a woo-woo. I'm not a woo-woo
I'm not
girl.
a woo-woo. Now you're like Queen Woo-woo.
Like, Queen woo-woo. I love that.
Queen Woo-woo. Add that to the dating profile too.
Put that in. This is just my whole dating bio. This is great. So I was like, I'm not a woo-woo girl. I'm not a meditator, but like whatever, it's the first part. Then I'll get into the good stuff. And ended up loving it. I was like, meditation is actually really cool. I feel like it gets this weird hippie connotation, whereas if you meditate and you spend time alone, you're weird.
Yep.
It's actually such an important part of connecting to the self and healing in every way. So anyway, there was this one day that I was like learning about the nervous system and I'm submitting this assignment on the nervous system. And it was like 3:00 on this Tuesday. I'd been on a bender all weekend. I'd been learning about the nervous system and I got out of bed in the afternoon, gacked, submitted my assignment on the nervous system, all about healing and like autonomic nervous system and this is what the body needs.
Meanwhile, you're doing the complete fucking opposite.
Meanwhile, I'm doing the complete fucking opposite. And I remember looking at myself in my like laptop reflection.
Single teardrop. Like, music comes in over. It's a full movie scene, dramatic. Like
it was so dramatic. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You've gone and spent all this money on this course to help people with grief, help people with trauma. What the fuck? You've just learned all about the nervous system, how to calm yourself, how to like regulate all these important things.
Yeah.
And it was then when I changed and I stopped drinking, I stopped partying, and I just went through this huge transitionary phase where now I get to help people with anxiety, stress, gut issues, PCOS, depression, all these things from a really integrated and embodied state where it's not just here's a tablet or here's a surface level thing to do. It's like, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's see what's actually going on.
Yeah. I feel like that's with anything though. Like you always have to have that light bulb moment almost on your own. Like it's like me with like my fat loss journey. Like to be going from a diagnosed obese girl, young girl, to living a healthier life now. It's like people will try and put me on diets. It's like, but no, it's not until you're ready to do it yourself that light bulb moment when you're looking at yourself in your reflection, you're like, you are a piece of shit. Like you are doing nothing that you say you want to be doing. It takes that from yourself to recognize that before you can even start the change.
Yeah. You have to be ready.
Yeah.
Or like not ready.
And when you started like going sober, not going out as much? Do you feel like you lost a lot of people in your world, or do you feel like you, whilst lost people, found people, or did you kind of just have a bit of like a solo alone phase?
It was really lonely at the start. So I just moved in around like July and I went sober in November. So around this like July period, I'd moved like Bayside and I had no friends in my 5-kilometer radius. Right? And this was like peak COVID. My family was like, I don't know, 40 minutes away. So they were definitely out of my radius. So I was quite lonely at that stage, but it was like a really good lonely where I was like, you've got some shit to work on. And I was reading this one book and I thought I was like really getting into the depths of personal development. Then I started to go sober and I was like, okay, well, if I'm not going to be hungover on a Sunday morning, what else is there to do? And I found Feel Good Dips, which was like ocean dips in Elwood. So I started going to there. But I remember the first one, I was so scared of being seen in my bikini.
Yeah, okay.
By like random people. And they were all like, hey, come to coffee. And I was like, oh, I've got to go. Didn't, but like didn't want to connect with people because I was really insecure, really low confidence. So from there I was like, okay, well, if I'm not going out and drinking, I stopped getting invited to things.
Yeah.
And I didn't really find going to bars every Saturday night that fun.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
When
I've just changed. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went through this like stage where my friendship started to, the friends I thought I would have forever, like one of my best friends who I had for 10 years, I haven't spoken to her since I stopped drinking.
That's insane. That is so wild to me.
And it was really lonely because I think that's where people get stuck as well, where they go, but I don't want to lose my friends and I don't want to be lonely. But I went through that really lonely period. And then all the friends I have now have come from who I had to become to get them.
Yeah. And they're probably so much more like valuable to you as well. The friendships probably are so much better because it's like we can sit down on a Sunday morning. Neither of us are hungover. Neither of us are like coming down from like whatever the heck we swallowed on the night before, but like we're all just like super aligned and I feel like it would be such a more valuable friendship anyway.
Yeah, they're a lot better for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they get me to where I want to go and I help them get to where they want to go.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's pretty much what this whole community is about. It's like two women being able to sit here who work in somewhat similar industries and it's like it is just about that collaboration, that community vibe where it's like there is no competition. You succeed, I succeed, let's fucking succeed together. And I feel like those friendships are just so empowering. And I feel like empowering is such an ick word of mine, but it's like, it's just such a feel-good community to be in where it's like the people that you're spending time with, the people you're investing your energy and your love and your time into want the best for you just as much as you want the best for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And your tribe makes it. Right?
100%.
If you're around people, what's that saying? It's like if you hang around 5 smokers, you're going to be the 6th.
Yeah.
Like if you hang around people who are getting drunk every single weekend and are not like pursuing goals and are not wanting to better themselves, then that's the environment you'll stay in. But if you take the leap and remove yourself from that environment, you will find people who are for you.
Yeah.
Like
and I feel like
it's so powerful.
It's the taking out part. Some people completely can't even do that. Like some people just panic and they're like, I can't do it. I have to stay. And it's that loneliness period. I think so many people would like panic and would stop them from even thinking about leaving.
Yeah.
A bit earlier on, you touched about meditating. You weren't a meditator, then you fell in love with meditation when you were studying. Right now, do you practice meditation a lot, often? Like, what's that look like for you as someone who does not meditate?
I go through phases with it.
Okay.
I don't like the whole idea of having routines. Fuck, that made me sound so like woo-woo. I don't like having routines and structure too much in my day, especially when it comes to like self-connection.
Yep.
So right now I'm in a stage of meditating, but it's like I'll connect with myself for 5-10 minutes every morning.
Yep.
And I'll literally just sit there in silence and just tune in to my breath, tune into like what's going on in my body, what's going on in my brain. And then at night I'll like make a cup of tea and I'll put it next to my bedside on my bedside table. And then I will meditate while I'm waiting for that to cool down for like 10 minutes.
Yep. I've also heard like you can tell me your thoughts on this. I heard another podcast, I can't even remember who was talking about it, but like a form of meditation for that person was like just driving in the car in complete silence. Like I do that all the time. Like the idea of having no noise in the car, just driving, like thinking my thoughts. Like to me, that's probably where I would quote unquote meditate.
Yeah.
But I'm like, would you consider that a form of meditation as well?
Absolutely. It doesn't need to be sitting down in a lotus position going,
well, that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
Like, or doing like some like crazy like breath work. Like this is obviously going to come into all of what you do, but like the whole like Like I sound like I'm like a tribal person, like dancing around a fire. Like to me, that would probably be the only extent that I meditate to. But I
Yeah.
find it so beneficial, but I'm like, I could never sit there with like some like wholesome music playing,
Find
legs
what works
crossed,
for you.
doing that.
If it's silence in the car, then that's beautiful. If it's going for a walk along the beach without listening to anything, that's meditation. Sitting in a park, looking at the trees, looking at the clouds, that's meditation.
So it's just stillness.
It's stillness, it's calmness. And I like to think of it as space.
Yeah.
Where you're not being infiltrated by other people's thoughts or opinions, whether that's music or whether that's podcasts or you're listening to something or you're speaking to someone, like you're consuming. So think of it as creating space for whatever. And if you're just driving, you're not going to not have thoughts, right?
Yeah.
You're not driving with zero thoughts.
But you're having your own thoughts.
You're having your own thoughts. And maybe it's, what am I going to do for the podcast? And you kind of go off on a little trail and then you'll come back to the road. And then your mind will go off in another little trail. And like, that's what happens in meditation anyway. It's just, I like to view it as I'm just creating a beautiful, safe space for myself to just be me.
Yeah.
And whatever comes up, comes up. And it's not something that you want to attach to or judge of like, oh, you fucking dickhead, why'd you have that thought?
Yeah.
It's just like,
wrong thought,
bad. Stop thinking. It's not about stopping thinking.
Yeah.
It's about it's like clouds passing in the sky.
Yeah. I think that's a really cool, like almost permission slip, almost that like meditation isn't this thing that you do when you sit and you play your playlist or whatever. It's just whatever works for you. And I think as someone who struggles to meditate, being told that what you're doing is actually a form of that, where it's just relaxing your mind and being in your own thoughts without that external like input of like noise and sound and opinions and all that sort of stuff is like, cool, I'm actually a meditator. Go me. Like, woo. So I think that's a really cool.
And some people might disagree with me, but whatever.
Well, they're wrong.
They're wrong. It's just like it is. And some people might go, okay, I want to make a meditation playlist and they sit and that's how they meditate. But it's not realistic for everyone's different types of brains.
Yeah.
And the way everyone works.
Yeah. So transitioning now, pivot, going into a little bit about like the work you do. So the first time I ever met you, story time. We should play like a little jingle. Story time with Georgia. Yeah. So we went to a retreat together. You were co-facilitating the retreat and you pretty much explained what you do. And not going to lie, my first judgment was like, this girl is crazy. But you were telling me about you normally have like tambourines and you were really disappointed that you didn't have your tambourine with you. And I was like, holy shit tits. Like, what the fuck is
tambourine? I would have said drum.
Okay, your drum. Like, is drum any better than tambourine? But it's just
tambourines are those like
yeah, like that's what I picture you doing, or like your little like clacker things, like hand clackers. And you were saying that you facilitate these spaces to allow women to, I'm going to be so vague, to do this thing, and you help women to see potential in all of this stuff. That was the worst explanation, but that is where we're getting into. Can you explain a little bit about what you do with your sound healing and all of that sort of stuff? Because to me, it is now fascinating, once fucking rogue.
I feel like that's common. Like I'm a breathwork facilitator, but I feel like that's common. And my first experience of breathwork was really similar, where I was like, these people are literally insane, because it feels insane, right? Because you're just breathing in a different way, but then you're getting all these different responses.
Like literally just breathing.
Just breathing.
Like not like taking something to make you like hallucinate. It is literally breathing.
It's fucking cool.
Wild. It's so wild.
It's so fun. So what I do, I guess, against every aspect and how it comes through in my business, and I guess like what I'm here to do, is I help women reconnect to themselves. And that can be through nervous system regulation. It can be through breath work. It can be through somatic work. It can be through like a bit of energy work. It can be through like minimizing the noise in their systems, helping them with nutrition, helping them with inflammation. It comes through in a few different ways, but my main route of what I do is just helping people reconnect and remember who the fuck they are.
I love this.
So when it comes to breath work, what we're doing is we're changing the like oxygen levels and the carbon dioxide levels in the body. And it just does some cool things, like without getting super sciencey on you, because I don't want to ruin it. It's
wild.
It allows you to switch off your prefrontal cortex, the like logic, the analytical part of your mind, and access your subconscious. And it gives you space. It's like what we were talking about with meditation. It gives you just space to move things.
Yeah.
the body remembers what the mind forgets, and the body keeps the score. So anytime you have anger or irritation or anything in your body that doesn't get said, it doesn't just evaporate. It gets stored in the body.
Yep.
And this is where we go, then we go super woo and go metaphysical of that's how we get dis-ease in the body when it holds. And if we look at Chinese medicine, the liver holds anger and all of this stuff. And then breath work, the lungs hold a lot of grief according to Chinese medicine. So when I found breath work, it was when I was grieving, first started to process my mum's death, and using the breath and using the diaphragm, it's moving that muscle and it sets it free.
It's so insane to me.
There's really cool sciencey aspects of it. And then there's also super fucking metaphysical aspects of it as well. So I like to kind of move between the two.
I feel like you're one of the few people to me, I don't know if I'm super exposed to this world or not, but I feel like you're this really nice balance of you understand and love the science aspect of it, but you also love the shit that you probably can't even explain why it's happening. And I think you morph them together really nicely to make me, as someone who potentially is so fresh and new and completely confused and amazed by this whole side of life and the world. But it's you're a really good balance of the two. And I think some people can go really sciencey, some people can go really no, it's just this. And I'm whoa, let's come back. And I feel like everything has a balance and everything has harmony. And I think you really morph those together nicely.
Thank you. I feel like that's a big part of what I do, is being that bridge for people, because I don't we do have this connotation of meditation. It's for the weird woo-woo hippies, or grounding and putting your feet on the sand and go, oh, there's those barefoot, me throwing hippies under the bus again, but barefoot hippies, and it gets this weird generalization. Whereas if you can make the woo-woo a bit more mainstream and the mainstream a bit more woo-woo, and you get this beautiful mix, because you don't need to just fit into one box, and make it understandable and digestible for everyone.
Yeah. Do you find that people who go into breathwork with you have, do you get a lot of first timers? I know when I did it, I was a first timer. And I literally, guys, when I say to you, I envisioned myself with my husband in a field and our daughter, to the point where I know her name. I know exactly what she looks like. I know her hair color, her hair, texture, everything. I saw her running towards me and my husband, and he was playing with her and everything. I saw this.
So
I could
cool.
convince you that this is real. And if my child, when they are born, does not look like that, I will be mind blown, because I've seen her features. But for a lot of first timers, do you feel that they're a lot more susceptible to having these kind of crazy experiences, or do you find it's very hit and miss depending on the individual, or do you find you work with more so advanced people in this area?
I work with freshies and experience, but it also just depends, because sometimes when you don't know what you're walking into, you can be more open to it.
Okay.
So it's e.g., if you know that you're going to do a crazy leg day at the gym, you're fuck, I'm going to hurt after this.
Yeah.
So you almost don't fully send it.
Yeah, you kind of are a little bit more reserved.
You're a bit more
closed
reserved.
off to it, yeah.
So typically I find for newbies, because they can either fall into the trap of oh, this is really new and really scary, so I don't really want to give it my all because I'm unsure, and they tread really carefully, or they're just YOLO and they just send it.
Yeah, I think that's where I was.
That's you. And you just had this super cool experience. But then what can happen is the next time you do it, you almost can chase that.
Yeah, so I haven't done it again since.
Yeah.
So I'm I would be really interested to see, well, that was not words. I would be really interested to see, if I was to do it again, would I have a similar experience? Potentially not the same vision, quote unquote. I don't know if it's called a vision, but the same experience in that sense, or would be something as still powerful as that, but completely different. I would want to see where it would take me. So I feel it's maybe something.
It's always different.
Yeah, okay.
And even when I facilitate groups, there will be 30 people listening to the same playlist, the same prompts, the same tambourines, the same drum, same sound bowls, and every single person will have a completely different experience.
Okay.
And then I could do it the next day with the same 30 people.
Different again.
Same, different again.
Okay, cool.
Because you get what you need, not what you want.
Yeah. What would be the craziest? Are they called a vision? Would you call it a vision?
Yeah, it's called a vision. You can call it whatever you want.
What would you call it?
Yeah, you're just connecting to different parts.
What would be the craziest thing that you've seen in any of your, if you're open to sharing?
I don't know if it's mine to tell, but I've seen some cool shit.
No, your specific ones, not what you've held for other people, but something that you've had in one of these breathwork sessions that you've have you seen your child? Have you seen something crazy?
I don't usually get visuals in breathwork. I
Okay.
get really physical things. So I get like electricity through my whole body that
why.
feels like a soft drink bottle that's shaken up, like
Oh,
the
wow.
bubbles, but it's all my cells feel like bubbles.
Okay.
And I get that and I move through things really physically. So I don't necessarily see things,
Okay.
but it's more physical. I sound insane. Physical stuff gets released through my body and it's more of a conversation that I have.
That's so interesting. So there's different forms of like experiences that you can have. So it's a visual, it's a feeling. Have you seen like I know as well in that room that we were doing it in, people were like screaming, which was
That's my favorite.
wild. Like, but not like just like a nice, like a full like deep belly traumatic scream was coming out. And I'm like, sis, like, are you okay? Like what's going on? So there would be a scream, a vision.
Yeah, it just like it's
all different things.
I just invite my clients to do whatever they feel they need to do.
Yeah, okay.
Because if you don't, then you keep it trapped in there.
Yeah. So it's like it's a space that you're just not really putting any rules on. It's just like, this is what we're going to be doing.
Just do it.
You do you.
Yeah. And like if I facilitate groups, there might be like one person over here giggling their ass off because they're just having all this joy come up. The person next to them is screaming. The person next to them is shaking.
Yeah.
And you just need to follow it and just need to let it move.
Yeah.
But some people get really like physical and their arms will come up and they're breathing, and some people get really angry and they release a lot of stored resentment and frustration and anger.
Yeah, okay.
That's where the screaming can come up.
Yeah. Have you seen those reels online? Like I think it was well and truly before I ever met you, and it was like they were on like that like chiropractic table and they were like doing it and their whole body was like moving.
Spinal energetics.
That is insane.
That's different. Yeah.
Like if no one's ever seen those reels, literally go on Instagram and type in spinal energetics and see this. Like this is wild. Like has that does that stuff happen as well where like people's full bodies will like almost like they look like a full contortionist? Like,
yeah. Well, like that's moving stuff in the like the different fields in terms of like energy fields that we have in the body. So you can have like more involuntary movements, but it's just you. Like it's like that feeling when you need a stretch.
Yeah.
And you like
have to do it.
You have to stretch. It's that.
Yeah.
That comes through your body and you're like, oh, I've just got to move in this way. And as long as you follow it, it's just energy moving because we're changing all the like levels in the body. We're getting the lymphatic system pumping. Like on a scientific level, it makes sense because we're flowing through things. So if we've got energy and emotions stored in the body, again, they're not going to evaporate. They need to move.
Yeah.
Create the flow.
So flowing on from that, what do you think as a breathwork facilitator, someone who's studied it, you embody it, you practice it, what do you think the biggest misconception is within that and like helping women understand it? What do you think like someone comes to you with the biggest misconception about what you do as a whole? If that's
as a whole or for breathwork?
Let's go two parts. Let's go breathwork first and then we'll go into like specifically your work and what you do.
Yeah. Biggest misconception when it comes to breathwork, I feel that people feel like if they don't have a huge emotional release, then it didn't work.
Okay.
And I think that that's because of the way that it's been shown on social media.
Yeah.
Where you see those huge, big releases and the screams and the cries and it's really emotional. And people can come in chasing that or wanting that and feeling like if I didn't get that, then it's not, I did a shit job or I didn't do it well.
Yeah. I feel like that's with every industry. Like even myself, like as a weight loss coach, like people see the big 40, 50, 60 kilo transformations coming to me wanting that, but they don't actually have that much to lose. Like if you lost 60 kilos, babe, you'd be like 30 kilos. Like that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So I think there's that whole as well, that online creating that misconception in itself, doing that for breathwork as well.
Yeah. And it's like that's with online with everything, like me going off on a fucking tangent, but it sells, right? You don't imagine a reel of someone screaming and they're and they're going through this big exorcism type breathwork, which can totally happen. I felt that myself versus someone who's having a really pleasant experience and who's just connecting with themselves. It's not as exciting.
Yeah, it's not going to sell. It's not going to make you money at the end of the day as a business.
Yeah. So that would be like my biggest misconception when it comes to breathwork. With holistic psychotherapy, I think the biggest misconception, like from what other people would see, is that it's all just in the mind.
Yep.
And for me as well, like the work that I do, I'm connecting the mind with the body and it's just bringing the brain and the body back in. Yep. The body isn't broken. We are not broken as humans. And I think when we start to blame the body or start to feel disconnected from it, and like that's how I felt like when I went through my whole Crohn's journey, which I haven't even mentioned yet. I was like,
we've literally answered like 2 questions off my list and we've just like chatted.
Oh my God, I love that.
So we're going to go back to question 2 soon.
I was like, was to mention this. Where did this come from? But yeah, it's like we were so disconnected from our bodies, and the biggest misconception is that you can treat things in isolation.
Yeah.
And you can treat anxiety, you can treat depression.
Yeah.
But it's like, for me personally, I am like, no, you are disconnected from yourself. That's why you have anxiety.
Yeah.
Your nervous system is really dysregulated. You have so much shit in your system. That's why you have depression. You're not even seeing the sun. That's why you have depression. Yeah. It's not just a treat the surface. It's fucking treating the root cause of everything that's happening.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll go back to question 2.
Sorry, we went on such a tangent.
You were diagnosed with Crohn's and there was a whole like world of that. So do you kind of want to go into a little bit about, I'm going to have a sip of water as well, but a little bit about what, first of all, Crohn's is, because to be fair, only you and Justin Bieber are the only 2 people that I know.
Does Justin Bieber have it?
I feel like he does. I feel like that was a whole thing that he was going through online, and I feel like you 2 are the only 2 people that I know with it. So go for you, because he's my number 1 artist on Spotify rap. So I'm really in my Justin Bieber era.
I love that.
Apparently I never left it. But if you want to go into a little bit of all of that and just explaining like what it is, how you like were so disconnected from that phase of life, and then how you kind of, again, had your reflection in the laptop moment and like kind of, did that spark the changes, or was it before that?
Yeah, great question. So Crohn's disease is an inflammatory bowel condition, or bowel disease. It's classified as an autoimmune condition where the body attacks itself. And I'm using quotations here because the more research I do into it and the more I work with clients who have similar experiences, and based on my own, when we look at it from a metaphysical sense, why is the body attacking itself, right? The body, for me, I know, and from what I've seen with my clients, it's me against me. It's me not liking who I am. And that's how it manifests physically. And I know that to be true definitely for myself. When I look back at that stage in my life, I was not happy with who I was. I was really stressed. I was really burnt out. I was partying all the time. I think I was still smoking around then as well, just doing dumb shit to my body. So when I look back, I go, oh yeah, that makes sense that this is how you started to show me that something was really out of sync. So I got diagnosed in 2019 because I had abscesses, like golf ball size abscesses come up on my body. And that's like a huge pus filled lump. And I had like 8 operations in 9-10 months, because they would open them up, and then they would refill, and then they would open them up, and then they put drains in my body. And then it was like, okay, what are we going to do now? Then I had drains coming out of my body. Like, you can't go swimming. You can't go into open water. Here's some injections. You need to inject yourself. This is going to lower your inflammation. And then so you don't build up tolerance to them, take these tablets as well so they can lower your immunity.
Just putting a million different things in.
A million different things.
Including the bags on the weekend.
And no one spoke to me about maybe you shouldn't have as much cocaine.
Slay.
So I was like, okay.
Doing it all.
But like that's and that's a big part that I do with my clients as well. It's like looking at all the factors, not just this. Because yes, I had abscesses, and yes, I had Crohn's. Was the like vomiting from too many Smirnoff Blacks on the weekend helping?
It's wild to me that wasn't like a thing that they told you, was like even asked you.
Nothing.
That's insane to me.
No,
like let's just give you injections,
anything.
let's give you tablets, but not actually ask if you're an alcohol like drinker.
Yeah.
I was gonna say alcohol user.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was using it to numb, using it to run, using it to just avoid all my feelings.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And now looking back at that phase of life, what are the main differences? Obviously we've spent like you're sober from alcohol and drugs. What else do you do, like dietary wise, lifestyle wise? Like what do you do in order to, one, not be that person? I know you are in remission now from your Crohn's as well, which is like huge, but then it's also, you're not medicated.
Yeah. So I took myself off medication.
You were told you were going to be on medication for your entire life?
Yeah.
Insane.
And so it got to this point. So I was on the injections, on the tablets. I'd gained weight. I was really still bloated. I was really inflamed. I was fucking miserable. Like so unhappy with myself, with my life. Went sober, started to feel a little bit better, started to go ocean dipping, started to do breath work, started to connect with myself. And I never planned on taking myself off medication, but it was like you can't go traveling because you need to refrigerate these injections. You need to do this. I was paying like so much money. I was injecting myself. I was so sad. And there was just one day that I was like, this isn't my life.
Yeah.
This isn't what I want to do. This isn't how it works out. Fuck this.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
You go back on it.
I go back on it.
Yeah.
And apparently you can't go back on the one I was on. So I was like, well, oh well.
That's on tomorrow's bingo card.
Whatever. Like, but I was like, what is the worst that can happen? I get back to where I am.
Yeah.
And what's the alternative? Like imagine, and I couldn't even picture a life without it at that point because it had been so many years of my life. And I was like, I just know that I can't live like this because I'm not fucking living. I hated looking at myself in the mirror. I hated my body. I felt so betrayed.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you fucking, this is my prime years. Like coming into my 30s, like it was like just before I turned 30. And I was like, you were meant to be in your prime. You were meant to be the hottest you've ever been. And you're like 2 months away from getting a colostomy bag because your body's betrayed you. This isn't how it works.
Right, yeah.
My hair started to go a bit like really thin and I was blonde at the time. My skin started to go funny. I was really pale. I was just unwell.
I could not, like even trying to envision that person.
Right?
I physically cannot. One, as like someone who spends quite a bit of time with you outside of like settings like this.
Yeah.
But like picturing you like that, like not in the water, blonde, not in the sun, not traveling, not living this freaking crazy, like amazing lifestyle of just wholesomeness.
Crazy.
I can't even.
Like black coffee and a dart for breakfast.
Insane.
So my life now is completely different, but it happened in stages. I think some people see the transformation and they go, oh, I need to be 0 to 100.
Yeah.
It's like I never meant to be this fucking person.
Yeah.
If you told me that I would be spending my whatever day it is, Thursday, on a podcast talking about my journey, the nervous system, having this 3-4 years ago, I would be like, you've definitely got the wrong lady.
Yeah.
Like
not me.
That's insane. I do makeup and I drink.
Yeah.
I'm fun.
Yeah.
I'm not the person you go to for this kind of stuff.
How crazy as well that that's what we associate fun to be, drinking and doing all these things. I'm like, first of all, I feel like we all go through that phase. I definitely think in Melbourne, especially our nightlife here is amazing. We've probably got the best nightlife in the country, but then also like, I don't consider that fun.
No, but I was like, I'm the most fun person. And in reality, I look back and I'm like, you actually were sloppy as fuck.
Yeah.
And you were not fun at all.
And it's like, if any of my friends did that now, I'd be like, are you okay?
Get it together.
Like, what's going on? Like, we're better than that, sis. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So crazy to me that we think that that's fun. I think maybe it's also an age thing, a lifestyle thing, a circle thing. It's crazy.
And when you don't have anything else fun, it is fun.
It is fun. But it's a almost like false perception of fun because it's like, okay, the alcohol's making it fun. But are you actually? Like, are you actually having it? So I feel like that could be a whole other like conversation. It's like, okay, are you having fun or is it just a misconception of what that should be? So interesting. I'll write that down. Okay, so kind of we've been chatting for nearly an hour, so this is going great.
Already?
Yeah, I know. But so obviously we're coming into the new year. What are some main things that you do or if you do anything before like Jan 1st starts? I know we're spending New Year's together.
Yeah.
So is there anything specifically that you do for yourself before or during or like just to set yourself up for the new year to welcome in anything that is coming to you, or do you just kind of like YOLO it, raw dog it, let's go?
I love raw dog.
I feel like I'm definitely a raw dog girl. Like,
are you?
But I'd like to have a little bit more of a plan. So I'm like, tell me what to do.
You're like, this is a selfish question. I want answers.
I feel like this whole podcast is 100% selfish. Like I said, like I just need everything that you have to give me. Like, let's do this every day, actually.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
That would be fun. Anyway, that's a story for another time. So I'm taking time off.
Yep.
That's my biggest one, like fully disconnecting for 3 weeks.
Yep.
I've done it a little bit over the past few years, but I've worked the last 2 New Years at festivals doing breathwork. So
wild. Okay.
Cool though.
Cool,
so
but
yeah,
wild.
Beyond the Valley last year where I facilitated breathwork and connection. And then the year before that I was at Lost Paradise in New South Wales near the Blue Mountains.
When you say festival, I picture like bush stuff, like hectic.
Like,
but I feel like Beyond the Valley is a little bit more tame compared to what I'm thinking in my brain.
Doofy, or it was quite doofy when it was last year.
Okay.
But it is like they're big festivals.
Yeah, okay.
Lost Paradise is huge.
That's crazy.
So this will be my first year in a few years that I haven't actually worked and I get to just be
nice
human.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks off. I've pause all my clients. They're fully aware of it and just to be me.
Yeah.
Because even though I've traveled, like I've been to Bali for like 5 months this year, it's been work.
It's work. Yeah.
And I haven't had a holiday.
Yeah.
So that's like my non-negotiable. That's what I'm really looking forward to is just switching off and not being on my phone.
Yeah.
And not being on Instagram.
And just being a mind numb human being.
Just being a human.
With the girls, just chilling in the sun,
That's
no expectations.
I mean, it's not like my life is really hard right now because I will do that every day, but just not having the having that pressure and just getting to really switch off for longer than a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
me and my friend are getting together and we're going to do like a reflection on the year of just like what lessons came up, what did we learn?
Yeah, that's really nice. Sounds nice.
What kind of was shit, but you turned it into good. Because I think that that's really powerful. Like when I look back at the things that happened at the start of the year that were really like bad, how did it actually benefit me long term?
Yeah.
And what good came of it that I couldn't see the bigger picture at the time.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing could be really powerful.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do that as well.
Let's do that.
And then I just like to set big fuck off goals. Like, what am I doing? I'll sit down and I'll go, cool. She said what? Like my podcast, what's coming for that?
I will show you after this my list of things that I have for this podcast and you'll be like, yo, you're fucking crazy.
Yes.
Like I sent it to my husband and he was like, okay, let's make it happen. Like he was 100% on board with it. Like, so it's just really interesting. Like I love the Delulu goals because I'm like,
they've got to be Delulu.
I'm not a Jan 1st goal setter kind of gal.
No.
I'm like, let me go hard or go home and we're fucking sending it.
That's my I think we said this at the community today. My words for next year are send it.
Mine was grow.
Yeah, same.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, at the community day, we had the Raw Reality Girls on and they made everyone kind of come up with a word that would reflect their 2025. If you don't have one, I definitely encourage you to try and think of one. So it was just something that you want to embody next year that really encourages you to chase your goals, to be better, to do better, and just to like honestly be your best like Delulu self and fucking have the best year of your life. So Kaitlyn's was send it. She didn't pick one word.
I had to do two because I'm annoying.
She's so extra like that.
So extra.
And then mine was to grow. So definitely really, really cool. And then do you do like anything like in terms of like your breath work or anything like that? Or you just kind of like don't even go into that really
for myself?
For yourself?
It depends. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I know that I want to create a 2025 vision board. Like I'll set one as my laptop background and just kind of be like, okay, where am I going? What am I doing? But it will probably involve some kind of like breath work or meditation just to drop into that space. And it's just really a conversation with myself. Like, okay, like show me. Like show me what we're doing next year. Show me where we're going. Show me things that I don't think are possible because I haven't been that person yet who thinks they can be real.
I even love just like scrolling on Pinterest and just seeing what feels good. Like you look at something, you're like, oh, like that looks and feels really fucking clean for me. Like we're adding that in and it may be completely rogue to anything that I'm aligned with now, but it's like, it just feels like I want to go there. It's like I'm drawn to that and I'm like adding that in.
Follow that.
So interesting.
Just setting like, because I'm not really like, I don't really like having set goals that I can tick off of like this, have this many followers or this many but it's more just like a feeling or like what I actually want to bring in. What do I want to fucking birth into 2025? How do I want to feel? Do I want it to be a year of travel? Do I want it to be a year of fun? Do I want it to be a year of surrender? But it's just going to be a year of like, how can I send this in the most fucking possible delusional way to everything in my life?
I feel like that's a good word as well that you could probably have, surrender.
Surrender is beautiful.
That's a powerful fucking word.
Have you read The Surrender Experiment?
No.
It's my favorite book and I've read it like 7 times.
I feel like you've said a few different books throughout this. So maybe we'll somehow, you said 3 books and that's the third one.
No way.
So we're going to listen back and I'm going to make sure to have them listed. So if you want to get any of those books, they're definitely there for you.
Read The Surrender Experiment because it is all about like his story about how he just had to surrender and all the fucking incredible things that happened when he got out of his own way.
Crazy. That's definitely me. I need that.
Read it.
I was meant to start this podcast in 2021.
Well, you've done it now.
Go me.
Go you. She's here.
All right. We've got one last question. And it's a big one. It's going to probably take us another like hour to answer this question.
For years.
But, so coming back to what you do and the spaces that you facilitate with breathwork and everything, what do you think are the biggest red flags that people need to look out for when entering this space, especially like myself as a newbie to this world? Because I definitely feel like with social media now, breathwork is trendy and cool and it is the thing of the month. And I think it's also becoming a very unsafe, unregulated space.
Yes.
And I definitely think like if I'm thinking about my loved ones and my like close circle, if they're to enter into that space, what do I want to make sure that they're not entering into like this, what are the things? What are the flags, the red flags?
Great question. How do I answer this?
Sweating.
I think as you would just do your research like you would with anything, right? Even though, it's breath work, it's still a really serious thing because if you have PTSD or some really deep trauma and you don't get the safe space to experience that and to be able to heal, in that space, it can actually re-traumatize
Yeah, okay.
or do more harm than good. So same as when you would be looking for a coach or anything, right? Like look at this person's, I'm assuming they're on Instagram because fucking everyone is, but look at their Instagram. What kind of footage are they putting up? I know for me, I stopped having, I started doing my events blackout. So as in no footage, no photos, no videos, no mics, nothing. You come, you experience, that's it. There's nothing from the outside world, which has felt really, really safe. And I've noticed a lot more sharing and a lot more vulnerability because you know what it's like when there's a camera
In your
and you're
face.
like, oh my God, I'm going through this really traumatic experience. And someone's like,
you're going to make me money.
yeah. And it feels really icky and unsafe.
Yeah.
So I would have a look at someone's Instagram and I would go, okay, is it just like big breath work, and they've got their little road mic and they're really in it? Are they in it for the content or for the people?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
And I would also, I mean, it's hard to do this from an outside point of view, but take away just the breathwork aspect because the breathwork will, for me personally, it's just one part of what I do.
Yeah, it's not your whole business.
But it's not even, you come for a breathwork journey, it's not even just about the breath. It's about how can I create this space to feel really safe? How can I take myself off the pedestal so you feel safe? Like one of the things I say in a lot of my breathwork journeys, especially this year, it's I am not your guru. I am not your teacher. I am just a girl banging on a drum and put on some music with my tambourines.
Can you get a tambourine?
I need to get a tambourine.
Okay.
But it's like, it's not about me. You're doing the work. And I think it's really important as a facilitator to give that power, not give that power back, but remind people of their power.
Yeah.
It's not me doing anything.
It's your experience. You take control. Yeah.
Your body's doing it.
Yeah.
I hired a studio and I'm bang on some things.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not me doing anything. It's not me giving you anything. It's not the event that's helped you heal. It's you. It's your body.
Being given the permission to do it.
Yeah. And I think so I think I would be cautious of what they're actually putting out there in terms of content, but also how they're marketing it and what they're saying. Is it this event will change your life because I am the fucking best? Or like I have the power to give you this? Or I'm whatever. Are they putting it all on them and making them the hierarchy, like high on the hierarchy and making them the healer? Because that's another thing. I'm the healer. It's like, you're not the fucking healer. You might help me heal myself, but I'm healing me. Yeah. You're healing you.
Yeah.
I do not heal you.
Yeah.
You do not come to me for me to heal you.
Yeah.
Looking at language, looking at like the way that they're marketing their things and just looking at their other opinions about things or the other things in their Instagram.
Yeah. I think this is something that people even like just in like the coaching space, not so much even your workspace. It's like people forget that everything else that they're posting matters.
Yes.
Like if it doesn't align to like imagine me being like a coach, like encouraging my clients to like be mindful, do this, do that, but then I can't even go and have a meal out or I'm going out drinking. I'm saying my clients, oh no, like let's just focus on limiting alcohol. It's like, do I actually match up to what I'm selling and what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Like it's so crazy that people forget that everything is a representation of that person. Like if you were still on like your black coffee and dark breakfast and posting that, whereas like your morning story is like the most wholesome things I've ever seen, you and Luna walking on the beach, like it doesn't match up.
Yeah. And like to some degrees, or like some careers, you don't need to be that embodiment and integrity. But I think particularly when it comes to coaches or breath work, if I'm looking for a breathwork coach and they're posting like the benefits of breathwork and then the next story is them out on a Friday night smoking, I'm like,
your breath is fucked.
Your breath, like why are you damaging the most powerful thing? You've just gone and told me how powerful breathwork is and how it's transformed your life. And oh my God, the gift of breath. And then you're fucking vaping and smoking on the weekend.
Insane.
So I would be looking at those kinds of things and just get to know someone through that, like create a bit of a relationship through their content to see, is this person actually, are they trauma informed as well? Because if it is someone who has some deep seated trauma, you can't just go to someone who's doing basic beach breath work.
Yeah.
Right? Because some shit is going to come up. So do they have qualifications to deal with PTSD, with grief, with trauma, with any of that? Or do they just have a quick little,
like, well, we did it.
Quick little fast, well, I'm not going to name names, but like breathwork certificate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to get myself into any more trouble, but
I was like, we don't want lawsuits. We're just two gals chatting.
just having a yap. But just look and do your research.
Yeah.
And trust your own intuition as well.
Yep.
When you come
And I
across
also
people.
think as well, if you do end up falling into the trap of someone who potentially is this quote unquote red flag, like it's a lesson learned.
Yeah.
And then it also comes again, like you were saying, for the new year, you're doing your reflection piece. Like just reflect on that. It's not a failure. It's just something that you can potentially take and then learn from that experience, pivot, and potentially either go down a new path or try a new like a new coach or whatever it may be. It's not a failure, and it doesn't need to be the be all and end all. And I think that that could be a really powerful, like just a little reminder that it's like if you do end up in this quote unquote unsafe space, you can always try again. And it's not the like it may have those scars, but I think as well you can also repair that.
And it depends on like the severity and all the things, but
Yeah.
also just remembering that sometimes you get shown what you don't want to be shown what you do want.
Definitely.
And some like we need that context
Yeah.
of like, okay, this person is actually really fucked and really bad. Now I know what I don't want.
Yeah.
So I can look for what I do
What
want.
you do want, yeah. Powerful.
Powerful.
I think we'll just wrap that up there. Thank you so much for being my first guest on the potty. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll come back one day and we can yap again about so many other things. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh my God, my words got mumbling. Thank you so much for having me. This was so great, G.
So good. All right, we'll see you next week. We've got another guest lined up and I will speak to you guys soon.